So we are going to see a video from Deborah Cribbs, who is the founder and the director of Give Them 10. And after this video, we will then have a Q&A section with Frenden-Tarant, who is the Chief Innovation Officer with the Give Them 10 movement and is helping create cat-carrying communities across the country. A decade before anyone had heard of such a thing, she cut her teeth founding a trap neuter return organization in rural Illinois and pioneered one of the nation's first and largest working cat programs. In 2012, her move to Texas helped Austin achieve a citywide 98% live release rate for cats. Monica then spent years as an instructor for the Maddie's Fund Life Saving Academy, teaching shelters best practices and innovative programs, advancing research in shelter medicine, and progressing public policy as a City of Austin Animal Advisory Commissioner. Monica is a frequent speaker and advisor on creative solutions for every cat, progressive community cat programming, transformative shelter leadership, and creating strategic visions for impactful and sustainable organizations. So we're going to watch a video, and then after that, Monica and I will pop back up and we'll have some Q&A. So enjoy the video.
Hi, I'm Deborah Cribbs. Thanks very much for tuning in today. I would like to talk to you all about the state of cat welfare, why we decided we wanted to be ambitious and start a movement. I'd like to show you our ad campaigns, which is super fun. Maybe the most important element of our success, I'd like to talk about establishing a coalition, show you our newest initiative, Scooters Help Center, and then ask you to join us. So let's get started. The state of cat welfare. I am quite sure I am preaching to the choir here, but cat welfare nationally is challenged. Dogs still take up most of the funding and attention, but cats are doing okay in my neighborhood. And I'd like to take you on a journey and talk about how we succeeded locally. My team and I live in Cincinnati. My day job is managing money for wealthy people. A client of mine left a very large foundation and left my team and I in charge. The foundation's only cause is cats in Cincinnati. When we got involved in the cat world, they were still euthanizing cats over 1 million a year, using what I like to call the yellow sticky note method of data collection, and an entirely siloed rescue and shelter community. No cooperation, no collaboration. The live release rate locally was an abysmal 37% or so. So we knew this was the problem. And as business people, we decided to put our bankers' minds to solving it like a business problem. First, we needed to understand exactly how we got into such a problem to begin with. What we figured out was there is a lack of credible education about community cats. There's a lack of transparency, meaning shelters did not talk to the public about how bad things are. So a lack of awareness in the public. The community doesn't even know there's a problem. And then insufficient resources and access to them. Even if someone did know what to do, spay neuter, for example, they really couldn't access care properly. So all of this led to community ambivalence and confusion. So we decided to do nothing less than solve the problem. How do you solve a community problem? You get the community involved. We ambitiously set out to start a movement. Having low-cost options to spay neuter and providing information about the importance is not enough. Shifting how people feel, seeing others change, and the idea that we're part of something bigger is key. We're motivated by how we feel and by what others around us are doing, particularly influencers. Movements use emotions to shift perceptions and create lasting behavior change. So, somewhere around 2012, we got to work in Cincinnati. We're not just creating ad campaigns. We're actually trying to create behavioral change from the ground up, a culture shift. Subsidizing local shelters is treating the symptoms. We needed to treat the causes, change behaviors. Information alone isn't persuasive. Facts do not change people's opinions or beliefs necessarily. We need to create a movement, leverage emotions, shift perceptions, change behavior. So, what does give them 10 mean? Cats have 9 lives. Get it? Well, we thought, if cats have 9 lives, why are so many of them dying in shelters? So, what do business people do? We hire really smart advertising people, and they came up with this language and this campaign. Now, I am going to take you on our journey of 10 years of campaign in Cincinnati. So, first, culture shifts. In order to shift a culture, we have to understand the current perceptions of the public and then the perceptions we want people to have. So, here's how we started. We knew that current thinking, the urban myth about spay-neuter really changing a cat's personality was out there. We want the public to think, no, it's not. They don't have a bad personality change. Spay-neuter is good. We went so far as to tell the public that neutering is cool.
He's neutered. And the coolest cat of them all. Hip spectacles, no testicles. That's right. He lost his pair of balls. The cats they make, baby. Who's your daddy? Not me. No, it's not me.
Find low-cost spay and neuter options at GiveThem10.org.
So that's truly great, huh? All right, back to culture shift. After this campaign ran and statistics started rising in Cincinnati, we did more market testing. We do think we made a dent in the old thinking about cats' personalities and spay-neuter. So what do we tackle next? Well, we want all cats to be spay-neutered, not just indoor cats. So current thinking, spay-neuter isn't necessary for an indoor cat. What we want people to think is that spay-neuter is actually good for my indoor cat. And spay-neuter isn't good just for the cat, but also for the human households. So we decided to talk to the public again.
You're daddy's princess, and boys are starting to like you. Really like you. Let me get your mother.
Cats don't get it, but you do. Please spay and neuter.
Wonderful, right? The local metrics kept rising. The campaign was very popular. So let's talk culture shift again. Current thinking. Oh, kittens are so great. What we want people to think, sure, but it's better for the species and their humans to limit their numbers. So we decided to help the public understand a little bit about cat reproductive math.
So if one cat has 4 kittens who reproduce every 6 months, how many cats will there be in 5 years? Who's got it? What is that? Seriously, who threw that?
Cats are terrible at math, but they sure do multiply. Please spay, neuter, and adopt.
The solution is...
Okay, I know you liked that one. And again, wildly successful with the public. So we're back again to culture shifts. We're definitely making inroads locally. At this point, our live release rates were above 90% in greater Cincinnati from 37. So current thinking, outside cats are bad. What we want people to think, they're fine as long as they're healthy and spay-neuter. So we thought, let's talk about community cats. These cats don't have owners, and therefore nobody takes care of them or gets them spay-neutered. We wanted residents to look at community cats from a new perspective and move from passive to active participants in their welfare.
Community cats, resplendent in their environment. A group like this will thrive as long as spay-neuter keeps their numbers in check. Here's one that's been fixed. Note the tipped ear. Someone cared. What's this? A magnificent specimen. Surely the alpha male.
Don't just sit back and watch. Please report strays in your habitat or learn how to humanely help out.
So very clever. And we did this one during the pandemic, if you can believe it. So what's the next shift that we want? Well, current thinking. Who cares? I don't like cats. What we want them to think, well, cats deserve to exist in a way that's best for them. Our results continue to be strong. With this last campaign, we were speaking to what we like to call the folks on the ground in the neighborhoods where community cats were really a larger population. We now decided to pull back a bit and speak to the public at large again, back to continuing to build the movement and for regular people to think that cats have a right to exist inside or outside. So we wanted to go beyond cat people, even talk to people who don't like cats.
Throughout history, the debate has raged on between those who love cats and those who do not.
Play with the mace. I hate cats.
We don't do cats. Take a walk.
Cats have no place in polite society.
Liberty gibbet.
Liberty gibbet.
We're all in. That's his poker face.
Nuh-uh, you can't have a cat at the bar.
I can have a cat at the bar.
There's a sign that says no cats at the bar.
This is King Ferdinand. He's my best friend. Are you not a cat person?
No.
It turns out there's something on which both sides can agree. Spaying or neutering your cat is the right thing to do. Learn more at givethem10.org.
I swear to gosh, that is still funny to me. And here we are, 10 years later, 95% or higher, depending on the month. So we've succeeded by any metric, but we've been very involved ourselves. So how do we create a sustainable culture shift in the public and in the shelter system? Well, we knew that all the silos had to be permanently disassembled, one brick at a time. We started calling our group of participants the Coalition, and this was in about 2016. By about 2021, we formalized it. They have monthly meetings between shelter and clinic partners. They share educational and funding opportunities outside of our foundation, optimize resources, share strategies between and among organizations. They all come to the meetings every month. That habit alone may be the most important element of sustainable change. So also, I want to introduce Scooter's Help Center. This idea was also an older one from back at the beginning. It took us a while to find the right partner, but with the help of a truly great partner in Dayton, CICSA, we were finally able to get this up and running. We felt it was a missing resource to have a one-stop shop, live person to help with companion pet questions. So we branded the Help Center under Scooter. We've done digital and billboard advertising, and we've started allowing phone calls and emails just in the last several months. This is still in the beginning stages, but we're very hopeful that it will succeed and be sustainable. So join us, become a licensed partner, and have access to a wealth of campaign work for broadcast, outdoor, social media, and more. We offer to help you with customized strategic assistant to help reach audiences in your community. It took us millions of dollars to create this work. We want to share it now for almost nothing with anybody who can bring it to the public in their area. Scooter can live in your home too. We can localize the media, meaning have it ready with your city's name on all the work, using your URL and phone numbers, etc. For example, we did a campaign in Greater Dayton, which is a different market than Cincinnati, and introduced Scooter the neutered cat. We worked with a really great partner, the Humane Society of Dayton, and their spay-neuter clinic, of course, is full. But during this campaign, we understood that their foster cats all found homes, and other shelters in the Dayton area were asking to join the movement. So it was definitely a success. We did some work in Southeast Indiana, a really great project, Scooter's Spay-a-thon. They, so far, I think last year, they spay-neutered 4,000 owned cats in underserved areas of Southeast Indiana in a mobile vet unit. We introduced and leveraged Scooter just to raise awareness and drive appointments. The appointments sold out. We also did some work in Iowa. We worked with It Takes a Village. I love this name, All Strikes and No Balls. It was a spay-neuter event, and we're told it was very successful.
We're thrilled to be here tonight in Davenport, Iowa with It Takes a Village Animal Rescue and Resource, who is providing low-cost, accessible spay-neuter to its community. People can keep cats in their homes, cats can stay with their families and get the resources they need. We are thrilled to be here to be a part of it, and welcome Scooter to the ballpark tonight, who threw out the first pitch in Spay-Neuter Awareness Night for All Strikes, No Balls Night.
Tonight is all about awareness. We have our new spay and neuter clinic, It Takes a Village Spay and Neuter Clinic in Muscatine, Iowa, that is now open. We really wanted to get out there and spread the word about the necessity of spay and neutering, not only your pets, but also the feral and community cats in your towns. We were really appreciative that a group out of Cincinnati, Ohio, Give Them 10, has joined us for the occasion. It wasn't about raising money, it wasn't about soliciting, it was all about spreading the good word and making sure that people understand that it's so much more than just the medical benefit to it, but really the emotional, physical, and mental well-being of these cats too.
Give Them 10 is a powerful and unique campaign. Our movement engages people emotionally to shift perceptions, change behavior, and create a cat-friendly culture. You can do it if you want. We can help you. Time for questions and answers.
That was awesome. That was awesome.
Isn't it fun?
I know, it was so fun. Beautiful video. And there were a couple people I know. There are certain devices that go to webinar and the video just doesn't play well. We'll make sure you get access to that video, so don't worry about it. So what I'm just going to ask you, Monica, what was it like? You were at the ball game there. So
Yeah.
What was that event like? Tell me how you got that all set up and what was the day like?
You know, this was a really cool experience. And first of all, how lucky am I get to be Scooter's chaperone and take him to these amazing events across the country. So plus my partner and I are baseball fans. So this was great, right? We got to throw out the first pitch, or Scooter did. I loved this event because It Takes a Village Animal Rescue is in rural Iowa. And we talk a lot these days about the challenges of rural organizations and the struggles that they have. So this is a tiny little rural organization in Muscatine, Iowa, and grassroots, no budget. And they came to us, and I mean, they primarily, It Takes a Village, they shook hands with every single person, 4,000 people who entered the ballpark that night. And they gave out information, and people took their photos with Scooter, and they said, hey, we're launching a spay-neuter clinic. And people went, oh, what does that mean? And they talked about community cats. Here's what you can do to help those cats in your neighborhood. And I mean, we just, old school fashion, 4,000 people in the entire town. Again, tiny little rural grassroots rescue with no budget, pulled off this, very effective and super fun campaign. Everybody loved it. And, while we were there, the local news came out to talk about, all strikes, no balls. And they thought that was great. And it just got so much publicity because it was fun. And kids came up, and kids love Scooter everywhere we go. And he just engages people. And so it was incredibly fulfilling for me personally to get to go see this. And Stacy, if you remember, I cut my teeth in animal rescue in rural Illinois. And so I really empathize with the struggle these folks had of getting resources to their community. And we were thrilled to be a part of that. They're a phenomenal partner. We love them.
Excellent. All right, I am going to look here at the questions for a quick minute here. So let's talk a little bit about the Give Them 10 and the work that you do. And here's this big marketing campaign, but what are you doing on the ground to assist with the affordability of spay neuter? So, this is about a marketing campaign, but is there also support to help provide subsidized spay neuter services?
Yeah, of course. The foundation also gives to spay neuter. It's our number one, tenet that we believe that spay neuter needs to be affordable and accessible. And to that end, the foundation does provide fiscal support to organizations, including heavily subsidized spay neuter for everywhere from Kentucky all the way into Indiana and up through Northern Ohio. So we have not kind of gone with the trend to pull back spay neuter funding, which I know is a hot topic, and we are all, I'm not a fan of that, and Stacey, I know you are not a fan of that. So we are still of the belief that we need to pay for spay neuter and make it affordable and accessible. And so we stick to that, and we are supporting our coalition partners through making spay neuter affordable to the public. We just revamped our entire community cat program in Hamilton County, which is Cincinnati, Ohio. And it used to be primarily SNR based, where it was free. If we wanted those cats to get out of the shelter alive. And so 10 years ago, we made all of that free for our shelter partners. And then it's transformed now, though, which is a really great problem for us that hit my table of we don't really have SNR cats coming in anymore. People know in Cincinnati, we don't bring those cats to the shelter. And so there wasn't a path of clear, free spay neuter for residents anymore. We don't want you to bring them to the shelter. They're like, well, then what do I do with them? I don't want to pay for them. So we completely revamped our community cat program this year and just launched it last month, where, hey, we realize, most people cannot afford to pay for, especially if you're a dedicated trapper, you're bringing in 3-4 cats a week. No one can pay $100 for those cats every week. And we did not want that to be a barrier. And so our number one priority is still spay neuter, and we are going to help make sure it's accessible and affordable, and then build up the entire foundation around that. Of an important part of having it be accessible and affordable is our coalition that works well with one another. They play nicely in the litter box together, if you will, because it wasn't always that way. And I'm sure everyone on this call can relate to that, where we aren't getting along very well in our communities amongst organizations. And so I think those two are really big parts of the component of why spay neuter is accessible in our entire footprint, not only because we're helping to fund it, but because those coalition pieces fit nicely together and the partners are actually helping one another out. So we've had multiple times, I think it's a pretty standard occurrence now, where one provider will say, we've got extra room, we hear you're buried, send us those cats, we'll take care of them. And they work together and they work through those challenges.
So earlier today, we were talking about return to field. You just used the terms SNR. Can you share with our audience, what does SNR mean and how is it different than return to field?
Yeah, there's so many acronyms, it's super confusing, and I should know better than to continue using them. So return to field, I don't even like. I like return to home better, but it's easy for even me to get caught up in using the acronyms. So shelter neuter return was the counterpiece to TNR, trap neuter return. And so shelter neuter return is an acknowledgement that these community cats do enter the shelter sometimes inadvertently. So somebody either leaves the cat out front at your shelter or they surrender it for some reason. And this is a known, healthy, thriving outdoor community cat. And really previous to SNR, to shelter neuter return, there wasn't a pathway out of the shelter for that cat unless it got relocated through a barn program or something. And we wanted to normalize, even if that healthy, thriving community cat enters your shelter for some reason, which we don't want, but you got it now, right? And what are you gonna do with it? We wanted a pathway to say, I'm gonna spay, neuter, vaccinate, make sure it's healthy and thriving, it's got a safe outdoor habitat to go back to, and then we're gonna put the cat back home. And so extremely similar to return to field, but I like return to home better, because field is, again, one of those confusing kind of inflammatory terms or words sometimes. You say field, return to field, and it kind of conjures up this, sound of music, landscape, and you're just putting the cat back out in the field. And return to home is much more accessible for the public. That makes sense. It's going back to its outdoor home, and it's the acknowledgement and acceptance that home does mean outdoors for lots and lots of animals, and that's okay.
Right, but home does also mean indoors too. I mean, we actually are going to be doing a return to home certification workshop, and that is going to be about how to really work to get a higher rate of, if strays do come into your adoption program, the various checklist items you can do in order to get those cats back to their original owners if for some reason they do end up at the shelter versus not being returned back to their home within the community. So the home is a, it's an indoor outdoor term, I guess I'd put it that way.
It certainly can be, and I think that's important for all of us to keep in mind, is that home means different things for everybody. And it's important that we respect all of those definitions.
Exactly. All righty. So we have return to neighborhood or return to community, other ideas of thinking about words. All right, let's look here. So tell us about this campaign and how do groups get involved? I mean, I know that the foundation's got a footprint of support, but it seems like this campaign is willing to go beyond the 100 miles from Cincinnati, right? So like here I am in Vermont, say I'm part of an organization here in Vermont. What are the nuts and bolts steps for becoming engaged or utilizing some of these resources?
Yeah, so I'm super, super glad we've got partners all across the country, including I think Kauai Humane Society might be our furthest partner out. But the foundation is a nonprofit foundation, so money only goes outward from our foundation. So Scooter was built a decade ago to be shared. He was built for charitable purposes. We wanted to give him away. So the foundation spent millions of dollars developing these, super high-end marketing campaigns. And we knew all along shelters can't afford this. No one has this kind of money, right? And so he was built purposely from the get-go to be shared. And we wanted to have enough data and experience to say, is this working? Does this work? And we've got a decade of it now, and it's worked better than anybody could have imagined. And so it kind of hit the green light pretty recently of like, okay, let's try this. Let's roll Scooter out around the country. And we've got partners all across the country in rural and urban markets. And what we are looking for is partners who want to get this out into the community, and you've got the means or connections to do it. And we make it as easy as humanly possible for you. And again, at virtually no cost to you and everyone who's probably going, yeah, but how much, Monica? So there is a $100 nuisance fee that the lawyers make us get when you sign a licensee contract, because you have to have some exchange of money and lawyer talk. I don't know, it's $100. You will work with our award-winning PR team, marketing team, who will customize all of those campaigns for you. We've got the connections, to help, what markets exist in your area. These are experts that are way beyond my, expertise who do this kind of a thing. But we work with partners to, first of all, determine where you are in life-saving in your community. When we started in Cincinnati 10 years ago, it was still fighting that very old mentality that we don't neuter male cats or male dogs. That's not, gizmo kind of a thing. And then where we are now with our most recent campaign, the great debate, was we wanted the last holdouts, people who don't like cats. And there's a whole spectrum between them, right, of raising awareness that you need for your community. So we usually start out by assessing where you are in life-saving in your community. What message do you want to get across? What behaviors do you want to see from your community? And we start there, the marketing team working with you and customizing all of those campaigns to your organization and your community, and helping you establish how do you push it out now into the public. So what we are looking for from partners is, hey, we really want to do this. Here's how, and we can certainly have meetings with you, and maybe you've got some connections at the local news station, or a reporter, or maybe you have a new spay neuter clinic or an event that you are launching, and you want to have a big presence, and you want Scooter to be there. We've launched umpteen clinics at this point, and Scooter and I get to go and help you have a great big event and publicize it and get some attention and get some media. So we're looking for partners who are rock stars, who want to get doing it and do some of that really cool work. And I fell in love with this foundation, and I came to work for them because my favorite quote in the world is that the electric light did not come about from the continuous improvement of candles. And in all of my decades of experience in animal shelters, I would go around the country, and this industry and our shelters, we are constantly trying to improve the candle to make things better for cats. And this foundation had a bigger picture. They wanted to change the way we as Americans behave towards cats. And you don't do that by espousing facts, talking about how many cats do this. And, we all have an example of, a family member or something. You can spout facts all day long. It just makes people dig their heels in more, right? And so this foundation had, from the get-go, something bigger in mind, a bigger picture. They wanted to change the world. And they did it really smartly through psychology, and they had the funds to do it. And so I wanted to come work with this foundation because I go to work seeing shelters fight these same battles in the intake room every day. And if we can change what's happening on the other side of the intake desk so that you can actually do your work and save animals, save cats and dogs, then that's what we can be doing. And we're really good at it. And so I get to, have this bigger perspective of things to help you do your jobs every day, so you don't have to keep fighting those same battles every day with the public about why spay neuter is important and why the cats get to exist outside. And I know you don't like them, but they're not going anywhere. So here's what we can do about it. We wanted to have that culture shift on a much, much bigger level so you can do the work that you need to do. So if that's something that you need in your community, you need to have them on board and just start to accept it as a fact that the cats live outside, and here's what we do about it. Whether you like it or not is irrelative, because they're going to be outside, but here's what you can do about it. And stop fighting with your intake staff or your call center folks. That's what we want to do. So if that is you, go to givethem10.org. We've got information online about becoming a partner, And we meet with folks every week who are interested in bringing Scooter to their community. So if you're in the US or Canada, drop us a line. We want to talk to you.
Excellent. One question, are there Spanish language versions of these ads? We see during our TNR activities that the Hispanic Latinx communities here in the South still tend to have that machismo idea about neutering cats.
Yeah, we've got lots of Spanish resources available, and we are building many more. That's one of my projects for this year, is to ensure that also Scooters Help Center, which is our new endeavor, is also going to be multilingual and accessible to folks. So yeah, hit us up. We've got lots of Spanish resources, and we're building more every day.
Just taking a step back on that cultural shift that you were talking about, and I think it's really great. Let's think about cat first, and not be like, okay, again, I said this yesterday too, which was, we're not developing our solutions around, well, what would we have done for dogs? And let's just think about it like, oh, well, in order to solve our cat situation, we got to license our cats, right? No, just because we went down that road with dogs doesn't mean that that's the right road to go down with cats. So it's taking the cat as a cat and working from that, building from that within the community, and understanding and accepting what the views and the ideas are of cats in the communities, because every community might have different thoughts and ideas about cats, and and how the role that they play. We have, you're in Vermont, we don't have a lot of like urban community cats, we have a lot of barn cats. So it's a different perspective than you would have with bodega cats in New York City, or so you're going to have these different types of sub community cat categories within each community, and they have different solutions from within the major solution, which I think we can all sit on the same page and just say, spay, neuter, and identification, ear tipping, those are really key things. There was a strange little comment I'm just going to point out, because it's one of these unique comments. Someone was saying, it's really a shame that we all have to say spay, neuter all the time, because neutering is not gender specific in the language. And I had somebody else asked me, like, should I start using the acronym TAR, which is trap, alter, return? And I was like, I don't ever use that. I was like, I don't know that, and
I'm trying to down to less acronyms, but I hear you.
I was just saying, let's just stay with TNR, and this person was like, I can't do TNR, I got to do TNVR. And I was like, okay, well, whatever floats your boat, because I was like, New England, we're TNR. The South, you probably know this better than I do, but where we ear tip on the left ear on the East Coast, and we're on the left other one, and we got TNVR in some parts of the country. We have TNR. I mean, it's exhausting.
Yeah, I spent decades of my career being the lone nut yelling about cats in the back of a room to a largely dog audience. But the central tenet of all of our work really comes down to cats are not small dogs. And the entire reason they're in this industry to begin with doesn't ever work. It was never species appropriate. Our entire industry was built for dogs. And we tried to stuff the cat into the dog box, and it doesn't work. I think everyone on this call would agree, historically, cat sheltering has been an abject failure, and it's time to completely rethink it. Stop trying to improve that candle and completely rethink this industry. And that is not overnight. That is going to take time. We've been telling the public for 150 years to bring loose animals that you see outside to the shelter, and now we're saying, well, not cats. I know I've said that for 150 years, but now we're changing our mind. They're not just going to believe us, right? And so that's the importance of this campaign work for us, is that re-education and that re-awareness that they don't need to come to the shelter. It's not in their best interest a lot of the time. And if they do need to come to the shelter, it should really be this kind of cat and for this reason and as a last resort, but also supporting those organizations of saying, here's how we can help you in a different way, in a more species appropriate, a more humane, economical way. There's almost so much of the time there's a better way to help the cat than by intake.
Yeah. Let me see. Oh, I have my train of thought. I just lost it. Let's go on to the Scooters Help Center. Tell me more about that. Can you go into a bit greater detail? And who is that going to benefit? Is it a tool that we're all going to be able to use?
That's my goal, Stacy. So this is a very ambitious foundation, and I have very ambitious goals for the call center. It was modeled off of human one-call centers. So like in my city, if I have a pothole in front of my house or my garbage can goes missing or something, I can call like 311. And no matter what I say, they'll fix it for me or get me into contact with whatever resource I need. And we wanted that for cats. We recognize that cat behavior lags so far behind dogs, and answers for cats lag so far behind dogs, and people are so confused about what to do with the cat. We wanted to eliminate that and have a one-stop call center where no matter what you're calling about for cats, we can help you. And our goal is intake diversion, obviously. We want to keep your cat in your home if we possibly can. We also want to raise awareness. And so if someone's going to call and yell about the cats outside and how much they hate them, I would rather they do that with a really trained person on a telephone line than to come into your shelter and scream at your staff in the intake room. We hope to avoid some of those battles for you. We wanted those behavior problems to be solved so that, cats urinating outside the box, we can help you with that. We wanted to connect callers or emailers or however they reach us with the resources that they need. So we get a ton of inquiries about, I need pet food. And we get, even though in Cincinnati, you can't, shake a stick without hitting a spay and neuter clinic, there are still folks who don't know where to go. And so we want to reach those audiences that we haven't somehow through all of our campaigns. And, our goal is that if you want to help a cat, we're going to tell you exactly how. And we're building this out in such a way where we've got automatic workflows that we're creating through the wonders of technology of ensuring that if you call and we say, go to this clinic to get your cat spayed and neutered, we're going to automatically, the software will follow up with you in 2 weeks to make sure you actually did it. And if not, we're going to reach back out because I want to investigate what are barriers. Why aren't you actually getting it done? Because if we don't understand what the root problem is, we can't solve it. And we do a lot of speculation in our industry about why people surrender cats or why they don't spay neuter. I want to know exactly what the reason is so that we can fix it in our greater area. And then we hope to share that data again with the world and roll this out. And I would love to see Scooter's call center, which I think is the first regional call center for cats. I would love to see it rolled out statewide, nationally. That is, my secret goal, because it doesn't exist and it's a resource that we need. And we're rolling out text functionality because so many people don't have internet access or they don't have a phone, but almost everyone can text. And we're rolling out different languages. And we want to make sure that the people who most need the resources can access it. And what I think everyone will appreciate, when you call, a human being answers the phone. So that was very important to us. If no one's going to leave a message, I don't want to call back. I want someone to answer the phone. So there is actually certified cat behaviorists on Scooter's Help Center, and regardless of what you're calling from. And we are currently getting calls from all across the country from people who see the promotions for it. So they are welcome to call, and we are going to do our best to resolve whatever it is you're calling about. We're going to try and help you.
Excellent. Either you can touch upon this from your own personal experience or from the experience that you've had with the foundation, in the Cincinnati area, and how the foundation has supported versus spay neuter versus shelter and rescuing. But this person is really having a challenging time talking about sort of integrating the challenges around deciding, when to return, when to bring that cat in, put that cat in for foster care, especially if it's really an environment where they cannot be returned. So, how to really be able to, how has the foundation assisted sort of those foster care placements that have to happen?
Yeah, Scooter's also got several foster campaigns that are available if folks want to license them, because during the pandemic, we couldn't drive more traffic to the spay neuter clinics, right? They were closed. And so we pivoted and pushed foster. And so that is something that we support heavily as well. We understand and know and want to get cats out of shelters, and foster care is the best resource for that we have. There is a great resource, before I forget, that just came out recently from iCatCare, the wonderful UK cat behavior and sheltering group. And they have a great guide out called In-Betweener Cats, what to do for in-betweener cats. Do you put them back to home? Do you put them in foster? It's a wonderful guide. And if Stacy can connect you with my info, or you probably have it or have seen it, Stacy. So that is a wonderful. Something that, when I am faced in this position, do I take the cat in? Do I return it back to its habitat? I think I will preface this by saying we have all taken in the wrong cat in our career when we thought we were doing the right thing. I think all of us have, or have had a house sparrow or two living in their house because we didn't put it back. And now we recognize that we probably should have. So we're in a judgment-free zone here on that. There are wonderful resources out there that exist of, you get this cat in, we do the inspection on it, and then we have to make that call. Do we return it? Do we put it into foster care and try? There are resources out there that will help guide you so you have some foundation to start on and you don't feel like you're reinventing the wheel, or all that pressure is not solely on you, like you're just the evil cat person who wants to put cats outside. Those resources do exist to help guide you. Million Pet Challenge is a wonderful resource for this that talks about the cat superhighway of all these cats coming in and how to slow down the conveyor belt, and what are the off ramps to that highway. So when do we keep the kittens? When do we put the kittens back? But it's not a perfect science, and it is unique to every organization and every community because our resources are not the same. If you are, struggling to save kittens, healthy social kittens in your community, then you may be putting back a whole lot more cats than somebody else who's not over capacity and has room to take in a lot more cats. I think the other part that I always keep in mind, and there are entire seminars about this now, is we are often tempted to keep the friendly cats. A lot of us are fine putting the fractious or unsocialized cats back, but there's a lot of argument for keeping the friendly guys. And I would ask you all to consider how you think the cat got friendly. It's probably because someone loves this cat. If someone wasn't loving this cat, it would be a feral, unsocialized cat. And we really have to respect that these outdoor cats have homes. They have a community. They have people who love them, who would be devastated if they went missing. And this is my opinion, and we can disagree, and I welcome disagreement on it. But we don't have a right to steal people's pets. And so it's okay to have an outdoor pet as long as we are providing for them, and we cannot take them all in. So are our efforts better served towards meeting the community where they are and making life better for the person and the cat? And so do your multi-point check when the cat comes in. Is it healthy? Is it in good weight? If he's healthy and in good weight, he's getting his dinner somewhere. He has resources. That's very different than if a cat comes in and he's neglected and he's emaciated. That's very different. No one is saying put those cats back. It's worth saying, though, to evaluate them and respect. He's in a healthy weight. He's clearly doing okay. He's a known outdoor cat in that community. I can make sure he's got the resources he needs there and connect his people with resources if they need them. But we've got to respect that these are people's pets and they are loved, often by multiple households. I think we all have the cats who go trick-or-treating around the neighborhood and probably have more places to go on Thanksgiving than I do. And they're living a really good life. And it may not be perfect, but we have to respect that home means something different to everybody and take a hard look at that. And sometimes it's a tough choice. I'm not going to say that it's not. No one likes putting kittens back, for example, but there are times when if it's euthanasia or putting you back, I'm going to neuter you and vaccinate you and put you back 100%.
So I'll just add to that and just say, if you do have a friendly cat that's out there, just put a paper collar on that cat for 2 weeks.
Yes.
And that's all we do in Massachusetts. It's just like it's in our DNA in Massachusetts. 2 weeks, put that paper collar on, because just because the cat looks good and is doing well, it's not maybe telling you the full story, because that family might be struggling to care for that cat, to provide food for that cat. That family might need support if the cat gets injured or the cat, wants vaccines or whatever. So I think there's a lot of value in the community connection, because also there's like 4 people feeding that cat, right? And so then if somebody goes away, so in Switzerland, where I live part of the year, there's a cat that we feed and is owned by somebody over this way. And as the woman downstairs lets the cat in at night, the cat sleeps on the bed of the woman downstairs. He comes to us for breakfast and dinner, and then he's got the cat door in and out with the owner, and gets the vet care by the owner. But all of this is done just through talking with your neighbors. And I mean, if we didn't know, we would have put a paper collar on him and said, let us know, just so that we all know when we have this common bonded connection. If something happens, we'd all want to know what was going on with that cat.
Yeah, and this is the power of community engagement, right? It normalizes community cats, or the fact that there are multiple people who might be caring for cats, and it normalizes that you can talk to your neighbors about community cats. We accept that they live outside, so it's, when you have regional awareness, community awareness that these cats are outside and there's multiple people caring for them, it opens that doorway for us to talk to our neighbors and to do a little bit of that sleuthing and put a paper collar template on it. And by the way, you can go online and download that paper collar template at multiple places. It's fantastic. But just having the community be aware that these are community cats, here's how we care for them. There are multiple caretakers sometimes, so if something looks off, definitely they feel comfortable reaching out. And that's, again, another one of these perks of having really broad campaign work like this, where community cats are normalized.
Right, exactly. And then if you've got 4 people feeding that cat and that cat needs some medical treatment, you might have 4 people willing to contribute. and put the money together to be able to afford the care or do a matching situation or something. And then the fundraising isn't so like incredibly overwhelming, from that standpoint. And if you need to catch the cat too, then you can tell people you got to pull your food because we've got to take the kitty to the vet, that kind of thing. So there's just so many reasons. And neighborhood engagement, we're becoming, oh, I posted on Facebook about this cat, but you didn't talk to your neighbors, right? And so it's because that's easier and it's like less, confrontational. We need to talk people to people. And I think we sometimes have a hard time. And now I understand there might be some communities where people are uncomfortable talking with their neighbors and that kind of thing. But if you do the paper caller with your number, and then you have a connection, then you know that you've got like-minded people because you're all caring for that same cat. So, that cat's got all these, we're all godparents for these cats, right? And we're just like taking care of them. And so it's great conversation from connections within the community. Okay. What are your thoughts on microchipping at the time of TNR?
I am a big fan of it. I wish that there were adequate funds to microchip every TNR cat. I understand that there are not, and so it's lower on my priority list than, say, an FVC vaccine. But I do think it's a priority because if you can afford to, because the purpose of a microchip is what?
Identification, right.
To get an animal back home. That's the purpose of a microchip. And these cats have a home. I want to put them back there. That's why I want them microchipped.
Right.
And then, we get into the entire abysmal return to owner rates for cats all across the country, which is a little skewed now. It's not an easy metric for cats anymore because we don't typically include TNR or return to home cats, SNR, return to field cats in that return to owner rate. So it's like, it's a little wonky right now, but we know it's bad, however we calculate it. But I would love to see more foundations provide the free microchips to community cats. It is a barrier right now that most of the free chip programs are not for community animals, even though we recognize that most people get their pet cats from community cats. The free microchips are not accessible to them. And so I would love to see that change. I do think there's a value in it. Please vaccinate them before microchip if the budget is a concern. But if you have the budget, you can get free chips. I do think it's absolutely worthwhile. It also will help you reunite some of those cats who are not community cats, but are true stray cats. And it will also help you mitigate some of the nuisance complaints you may be getting. You may get the same frequent flyer in the shelter multiple times who might need intervention, might need some additional services. So yeah, all in all, I wish that chips were available for every TNR cat.
Yeah, I know we've mentioned this before, the normalization of TNR and so many years, and I'm not saying we all need to start feeding our cats like in the middle of a parking lot in front of everybody and for the whole world to notice us. I think we should be discreet and delicate and clean and organized with how we take care of our community cats. But I also think it's time for us to come forward and not be shy about who we care for. And people are like, oh, I can't put my name on this microchip registration because then people are going to know that I'm taking care of an outdoor cat, or they're going to say I own this cat. And so and I understand that there's laws, there's legislation out there. There's certain areas where it might not be such a great idea to take ownership, but we have to move forward, and it is an ownership. It's a way to connect you to that cat and connecting you, if something were to happen. We found out in Maui, it's really important, in terms of any sort of a disaster, it's really important to have some sort of a microchip connection there to be able to help give these cats a chance. And so we've got to just kind of be strong and step forward and be willing to put our name down on that cat. And then, if you've got other people who are feeding that cat, you're the one with the connection list, right? And so, but somebody does have to put a name down on that microchip, or the organization that's done the return.
Our coalition in Ohio that the foundation supports, we created an entity that all of our chips would get registered under. That is an organization entity that one person or one organization has agreed to field any phone calls for, so that we can chip every cat that we want to without somebody taking legal ownership of it. So there are workarounds for that if you understandably have the legal concern. But Stacy, you picked up on a good point in a conversation we've had earlier or later last year about normalizing caregivers too. And I would be remiss to not comment on that after you kind of mentioned it, Stacy, we've had to operate in the darkness for many years for very good reason. And the Give Them 10 movement, part of our work is also bringing that out into the light, that it is normal to care for community cats. So many of us do it. And through Scooter, through all of our work, and in a multitude of ways, we're making it okay that you can come out and talk about that you care for community cats. We're making it cool.
Right.
And that's a huge, I love being able to do that, because normalizing caregivers absolutely needs to happen if we're going to make progress. We have to stop using words like crazy cat lady and drive that back where it belongs, because the whole world is spaying and neutering cats and doing TNR. And a huge demographic of folks is out there trapping and feeding them. And we want to make that okay. We not only want to make that okay, Give Them 10 wants to make it cool. So
Right.
that is also a huge part of our work, and something, again, Stacy and I have talked about this, that we want to do our share on that to normalize caregivers as well in 2024 and push that agenda forward.
For sure. As I would say, lovely. That's lovely. That's my word for the year. And we actually in Newburyport, one of our first feeding stations was a doghouse, and it was labeled Mickey's Galley. And so, I mean, you could walk right by it. It was right next to the restaurant. You could see it. It was right there. It was visible. Mickey was a super social cat, incredibly friendly. And he stayed on the waterfront until he was like 14 or 15 years old. What he did was he summered at Mickey's Galley, which was right down on the water. And then he would go up to the post office and he'd winter at a feeding station with another group of cats. Up a little bit where it wasn't so rough in the winter time. He went up the street a little bit, and he was found up at that one. And so, there were many discussions amongst the committee of the feral cat givers. We called them feral cat givers at that point in time, but lots of discussion, should we take him off? Should we, blah, blah, blah. And he was like the mascot. He was like the organizer of all of the other cats. And we felt that his place was meant to be down there, even though he'd run right up to you and want to be pet and all that stuff. And it was determined. He did get trapped and brought in, and he was hospiced for like 6 months before he passed away. And it was at a time that a lot of the other cats were passing away too. But we had these 14 feeding stations that were public feeding stations manned by volunteers twice a day. It was public. It was supported by the Chamber of Commerce. We were right out there, and we were saying, you know what, this is a town situation. The businesses want us there. They want us to do this for the cats. We were welcomed by the business community because the business community wanted a solution, a humane solution for those cats.
The word community cat is much more involved than just two simple words. It's not just a cat who lives in the community. It's also the community. The cat belongs to the community. It's a much more broad term than we often think about.
Yeah, exactly. All right. And so last comment, just here, somebody mentioned on paper collar, since I'm a big paper collar girl here. So please paper collar even mangy cats, she says. I spent $500 on a cat before I used the collar and found out it was insulin resistant diabetic belonging to a neighbor. Yeah. So power and information, that's for sure. Power and information. Oh, Monica, can you quickly share that UK guide again for cats? Can you just...
It's iCat Care. I think if you just go to iCat Care, Google iCat Care, all one word, like the letter I, not your eyeball, iCat Care, and it's a UK organization.
And your email again is, we're getting requests for your email.
Yeah, it is. Well, you want me to put it in the chat? I can put it in the
chat. We'll throw it up on the chat then. Yeah, you put it in the chat and we'll throw it over there to the group.
I'm going to put that in the chat so you can reach me, and then go to givethem10.org if you want to learn more about Scooter and all of our campaigns, and you can contact us right through givethem10.org if you are interested in Scooter coming to your community.
Excellent. Wonderful, wonderful. And then Cheryl, you've got a question here about interested in the topic of how to get public feeding stations. Shoot me an email at Stacy at Community Cats Podcast. I'll put that in the chat too, the article, the Newburyport story article. I don't know. I know there's other initiatives where there's been, support. I think, what is it? Was it Jersey City? It's not Jersey City. Where Alley Cat Allies? Atlantic City. I think they've got some pretty visible feeding stations too for their cats. And I was down in Nantucket, and they don't have many. Most of the cats have died off over the years, but they have the cutest feeding stations ever there. They're just, I'm like, oh, and then, there's some great feeding stations. These aren't public, but this is what another dream project of mine is, to have a prize for like the best design feeding stations or something like that. And I'm sure like the architectural students would go crazy with that one. But because when the cats were getting older in Newburyport, we were doing plug-in feedings to warm the feeding stations up for so U.S. Postal Service. they supplied a little electricity for our feeding station behind the post office so that we could give them a little heat in the wintertime and that kind of thing. So it's, it's what we do. And then we talked about solar panel feeding stations and all of that kind of stuff. So yeah, and I know there's been some other people looking at like specifically controlled feeding stations where the door goes up if they've got something on them that they have to do specific food or anything like that. So that was like Jonathan's suggestions. Jonathan, what's his last name? I forget, but
yeah,
lots of cool tools. That's what it's all about. The cool tools, the air tags, people using air tags with pregnant mom cats to track down where the kittens are after they've been with spay neuter surgery, after they've come in and they realize that they're lactating moms, so they put air tag on them so they can locate where the kittens are. And so the technology is really helping us in being able to worry less about our community cats, because we are control freaks, really. As human beings, we want to know where everybody is at any given time, and unfortunately with community cats, that's just not the way it works. But anyway, Monica, thank you so much for the chat today. Really appreciate it. Thank you. And okay, so folks, we're going to go on a break till about 2:30, and we're going to talk all about hoarding. Fun topic. So we will see you in about 28 minutes. And thank you again, Monica. It's always great.